I spoke to Paul Giamatti, and he said something interesting. He said, David told me not to read the book in preparation for my character. And he said, of course, the first thing I did was try to read the book. After he said that, why did you suggest that some cast members read it and others not?
Well, because his character, Benno, in the novel, writes a journal. And the journal is very revealing about things going on in his head. And those are things that I cut out of the script because they are not cinematic. It's sort of like an internal monologue, which you really can't do in cinema. You can easily do it in a novel. Whereas for other characters, the depiction of the character was much smoother and more straightforward, and then knowing, you know, the structure of the whole novel wouldn't disturb them or wouldn't, you know, confuse them. So that it really depended on how the character worked in the novel.
Okay, Rob, did you read it?
Yeah.
And did it help you in preparation for your character?
Yeah, kind of. I thought this script had a much higher energy to it. The book is very, very detail oriented. Like huge. There would be a huge passage describing quite small things.
When you knew you were going to do this movie, and you maybe told friends or family that you were going to do it, and they said, "Okay, so tell me what it's about. Tell me about that conversation." What did you say to them?
It's impossible. I mean, I sent it to my best friend before I did it. I sent it to my parents. My parents completely misinterpreted it, thought it was something else. So I was like, okay, but your judgment, it doesn't count. My best friend was saying, like, yeah, I really like it, but it's completely impossible. It's impossible to do. And I was like, oh, great, thanks very much.
Tell me about casting, David, and who you had in mind when you were writing the screenplay.
Well, actually, I try not to think of actors when I'm writing a screenplay. Yeah, especially an original one, but even in this case. And the reason is that I don't want my understanding of the actor and what he's done to shape the character. So first you write the screenplay, you look at the character on the page, and then you start to think of the actor. That's the way I like to work. Having done that, you start with the basics. You know, it's like, how old is the character? How old is the actor? Ultimately, you've also got a character who's in absolutely every scene. And this means that the actor has to be pretty watchable, pretty charismatic, have a lot of moves, a lot of shapes and shifting and things to carry you through the whole movie.
Tell me how you prepared for this role, Rob. Is there anybody that you look to, fictional or anybody real for that matter, to prepare for this role? I mean, we're talking about a young billionaire, you know, so maybe a Zuckerberg comes to mind, but then there's the charisma and you know, all the different aspects of this. Did you look to anything or anyone?
I try to look to asset managers and stuff and hedge fund people at the beginning, but there's a totally different type of hunger. I didn't really think that
His was obsessive.
Yeah, and it's not really about money, and it's not about greed, and he doesn't feel the need to prove himself to anybody.
Yeah.
And whereas a lot of the hedge fund guys are so insecure, it's ridiculous, and that's where the unbelievable energy comes from. I've mainly just thought about the voice, because that was the most important. The voice. Yeah, I mean, that was the most important thing. And there was a kind of a little idea of the rhythm. As soon as I read it, I kind of got that the rhym was very specific in the book and in the script, like what David had chosen.
Whose voices were you?
I looked at Howard Dean, the presidential candidate, and I was looking at Jeffrey Dahmer as well, and a few other people. But Jeffrey Dahmer, there's an interview on YouTube with his dad, which is, it's really, really sad, and there's this kind of disconnect between the emotional relationship between him and his dad and the reality of what happened in their lives, and I thought that was quite interesting.